This is seriously one of the coolest feelings I've ever had as a developer. I'm running code that I wrote on this. Hey, how's it going? Welcome to my channel. In my previous video, we went over the design for my first real React Native project, a DVC calculator. You can go back and watch that video, but a brief overview is an app that is used to calculate the points needed to stay at a Disney hotel. Well, I've implemented version 1 of my app, and I want to share it with you. V1's mostly about base functionality, so there's not much style or any advanced features. Let's go see the implementation. There's not much going on in the app.js file. It's just the status bar split out from the rest of the app and some navigation control to go between my two screens, a search screen and a results screen. This navigation container is similar to React Router if you're familiar with that. From here, let's look at each screen and see what it's doing. We'll start with the search component. So this search component is what you see here on the left. Its main functionality comes to the date range picker, which is an npm package that I installed. This is the documentation for that date range picker that I'm using. I basically just followed this example here to implement it. I gave it a nice button that you click to open it. As I actually mentioned in another video, a lot of times when you find this documentation, it's working with class components rather than functional components. So I just kind of tweaked how that's working to work with hooks and functional components for my project. So I'm storing these dates in state and then updating them on change of my date picker. And depending on what you select, it sets the appropriate state. Apart from the date range picker, I've just got some filler text in here that will print out the date that you've selected for both the begin and end date. And then also I have the search button that takes the dates that you've selected, builds the request to my API, and then navigates to my second screen with this navigation object that comes in as a prop because of the navigation component that I'm using. And then you just call the navigate function on that and give it the name of the screen you want to go to and any props you want to pass along. In my case, I want to send the data that comes back from the API request. This navigate function, it wants the name of the screen that you're going to. And you can see that here in my app.js where I'm defining the navigation container. The name of this screen is results, so it's going to open the results component. So the way you access the data from the navigation is through this root prop that comes in, and you pull the params off of that, and I've just destructured it into this results variable. And then I'm just looping over the resorts inside that result set and displaying a resort component for each one of those. I did have to include a scroll view here because this set of data quickly became larger than my screen and I ran into rendering issues if I didn't have this. Since we're rendering a resort component for each resort, let's go see what that looks like. It's another very simple component. It's just printing out the name of the resort, and then in that resort, it's looping over all of the room types, then rendering another room type component, which prints out its name and then loops over all of the view types on the room type and prints out a view type component. I like splitting all of these into components for readability, and if I know I want to change something about the room type component, I can come here. It's not going to take me 10 minutes to find the code that I'm looking for. I can make style updates more easily, and it just works better for me to keep them separated. All right, in the view type component, it gets a little more interesting. We do still print out the view type name. We also print out a total points for that entire stay. And then we add a button to the screen to show the details. When that button is pressed, you'll see a list of all of the days for that whole stay, and it will say how many points are needed for that individual night. just so you can kind of see the breakdown based on the day. I am using some state here to decide if I want to show the details button or the close details button, and then whether if you have the show details on, that's when you display those individual rows. The whole results set did take a little bit of styling just because I wanted to give it a nice layout so you could read the results. Yeah, that basically covers the functionality for this app. I'll demo it for you, but I actually wanted to do it on my phone just because that's more fun. Okay, so I'm on my phone here. I'll put it on the screen so you guys can see. But yeah, I've got my app installed right here. It's called DVC Calc. If I just click on it, this opens up the same screen that you saw on the emulator. So if I just click some select dates, I can go all the way over here to 2024 because fun fact about Disney, you just about need to be planning this far ahead to get the rooms that you want. So if I just say the first week in January of 2024, come back over here and do a search, you'll see the results here come back, and you can kind of see how it's broken up by resort and then room type and then view type. There's a minimal amount of style here to really break up the data, but yeah, this is basically it. You have your resort, your room type, view type, and then your total points, and then this also includes every other resort that I have data for in the API. But if we go back up here, and now you can click this details button and it shows, okay, for my whole stay, it's going to cost 88 points, and this breaks it down by day, what each night will cost to stay. So the first night is 12 points, and then these are the weekend nights, which is why they're 14 points. But yeah, this is exactly what I wanted. When you're done with that, you can hit the close details button. If you want to change your search results, you just go back to the menu here. You can just go and say, I want to search for these nights instead. Now do your search, comes back. Okay, cool, this is only costs 36 points for 3 nights, 12 each night because you're not going over a weekend. So that's the app running on my phone. Let's go over how I got it there. It wasn't too bad. I just had to do a little bit of Googling to figure out the process. I found I needed to create an Expo account to access their dashboard and store. I had to join the Apple development program because the EAS build needs keys to generate an iOS app. And since I wanted to deploy this to my phone without going through the App Store first, I had to create a distribution build, then register my device to my Apple development program so I could download that distribution build to my phone and run it there. Honestly, this all sounds really confusing, but the EAS build really holds your hand through it and does most of the heavy lifting for you. It asks for your Apple ID login so it can build those keys that it needs for you. And then when the builds are done, it gives you like a QR code to scan on your phone to download that app. It did take me a bit of Google Foo to figure out what commands I needed to run, but it was very manageable, and I managed to do it while I was watching TV. I also used the Expo dashboard to follow my builds as they were going, and that was really helpful to see that. It also helped me debug one issue I was having while doing the build that was really weird. It kept failing on the install dependencies step, and I couldn't figure out why. So I did some Googling, and I found very early on a suggestion to run yarn install. I always use npm, so I just kind of ignored this for a while until I became very desperate because everything else I was finding wasn't resolving the issue. So I went ahead and ran yarn install, ran the build, and it worked perfectly. I have no idea why running that fixed it, so if you know, please put it in the comment below so I can learn something. So that's my app, but obviously it's not done. There are a ton of things that I want to do to improve this app. I think the first steps are to add some styling and add some quality of life features like a clear button on the dates and a loading indicator while it's fetching the data. I do want to push this to the App Store as soon as possible, so I'm really going to focus on this limited feature set as an MVP and polish it up so it looks nice and gives a nice user experience. Then in later versions, I'll go in and add additional features like filtering on the results screen, saving a trip, maybe keeping track of the points that you have available, and maybe a countdown to those trips that you have saved. Like I said before, this feels like one of the coolest things I've ever done, and I can't wait to improve on it. I hope you stick around and watch more videos to see how this app evolves over time. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.